Okay, so can I have a motion to return to open session?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Carla? Joe?
Yeah, I'm here.
Lizzie? Renee?
Here. Oh, yes.
Corey?
Here and yes, yeah.
Anna?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Brianna?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, now I'm going to reconvene the open session of the October 27th, 2022 Governing Board meeting. Now we do the roll.
That's fine.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm here still.
Lizzie? Renee?
Here.
Corey?
Yep, here.
Anna?
Here.
Brianna?
Here.
And Carla? We have quorum.
For our opening ceremony, we have a pledge that will be led by the Middle School Positive Culture Club members. Are you in attendance? Hi, come on up and lead us in the pledge.
Let's do this.
If you can come up right to this podium area where we have cameras for the ones. Yeah, thank you. All right. And we're going to start whenever you do. All right, thank you.
That's great.
All right, thanks for Okay, so we're going to move on to the approval of the agenda. Can I please have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion.
Second.
Vote.
Lizzie? Renee?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Brianna?
Yes.
Carla? Joe?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
So we start with the superintendent's report. There are 2 events the district's acknowledging tonight. The Woodland Middle School Positive School Culture Club, just let us in the pledge, and the Illinois Principals Month recognition. Mrs. Drake, our middle school principal, will start us off talking about the Middle School Positive Culture Club. Mrs. Drake?
All right.
Yes, you do. You can bring your posters. Sure, you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you're doing. All right, so thank you so much, and we are excited to introduce our Positive School Culture Club. This is our first year as we introduce this club. Kathy Eddy, who is one of my 6th grade teachers, and Ana Rumi Gutierrez is also, well, she's a 7th grade teacher this year. They are the club sponsors, and I love it because actually Kathy came to me last year. She's like, you know what, you've been talking about positive school culture, and I think we should have a kids club to do it. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And so she thought about it, and I was like, you know, I'm always saying yes to stuff. Like, just, yeah, let's do it. And so she came up with a whole proposal, and it actually came to fruition, so I'm excited. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about how, what we're doing and how all Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely drinking this.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to turn it over to them.
Oh, use the mic. Okay. All right. So the mission of the Positive School Culture Club is I wanted to create a climate in our building in which all students feel heard and seen and respected. So we wanted to make everybody feel like they have a place to belong in our building, and improve teacher and student relationships on a more personal level as well. So activities that we've been doing together, the students have been making posters to promote school events and different heritage, cultural celebrations.
That was a good one.
Different celebrations of different cultures, and just making sure that everybody feels like they are welcomed and heard and seen in our schools. So the kids brought in some of their examples of what they've been doing.
We've also been doing the weekly lunch highlights that we've been projecting in the cafeterias. I don't know how to work that. One of the things that I wanted to do in a place where all of the students come together is in the cafeteria. And so we are projecting things that promote conversation and discussion with the kids and highlight students that have been positive role models in our building. The students themselves nominate other students that have been a positive influence on them. We put up quotes from other students about those students that are promoting positive behavior. Teachers then also put in their quotes as well for the kids to also engage in that as well. Yeah, but we just want to promote positive, and these guys have been amazing. We are promoting positive school culture with them because they're great role models. So, but things that we also want to do is we want to, get businesses and the community involved as well, and student activities, and there's a lot of different directions that we can go with this club. So we're excited to see where it goes. So this is the weekly highlights right up here. So we have this scrolling through on a huge projector in the cafeterias, and every slide just, highlights different school events that are going on. Little reminders here and there just for them, big journeys begin with small steps, and there you go. Yeah.
Got it.
Lunch menus. So this is this week's highlights, and the students have had an awesome response to it, staff as well. So they've really been enjoying this, and it gives them something to look at during lunch, and we have a bunch of different, discussions. I've been including things in the community, Warren Newport Library, Gurney Park District, age-appropriate events that are happening that students can be involved in, all the clubs that we have, our Roar store. There's some Warren Newport Library information there. The kids are super excited about the the Friday night alternative that's happening tomorrow. That's been a big to-do. We want to talk about all the different holidays that happen, make sure that all of the different, cultures are included, religions are included. We had Filipino American History Month this past month, and it got kids talking during in the cafeteria as well about these things. So
And I just want you to know that here's an example of culture, right? I've had kids to come to me and they said, Mrs. Drake, it's Filipino Heritage Month. You got to do something. All right.
Yeah.
I'll put it in.
yeah,
Mrs. Drake, it's Italian American History Month.
Yeah.
You got to do something. That came from the kids. So
Yeah.
that's why I know that the Positive School Culture Club is working.
yeah.
Because kids are now feeling like they belong, and you better recognize me, Mrs. Drake. All right, I got you. We're going to make sure we do something.
Yes.
And so that's the positive stuff that's happening, because kids are starting to feel like they belong, and they want to make sure that they are seen. And then here's some of the good stuff that, they're starting, we're recognizing the teachers, and they're learning, and they're getting to know the teachers. And they're seeing this every day, and they're getting to know who the teachers are.
Yeah, and I felt like it was really important for kids to also be able to place a face with the teacher's name as well. So highlighting the teacher with a picture up there and the things that they like just makes it more personal for them. And discussions are happening.
We're highlighting students.
Yeah.
We're highlighting good stuff that's happening in the building.
Yeah.
And so everybody's got a part of it. We're highlighting 6th grade, 7th grade students, artwork that's happening in the building, fun stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
All the different staff members, all the fun stuff we're putting up, right?
I was trying to encourage them to vote more.
Right. So this is just an example of what's kind of happening throughout the building.
Wait,
Oh,
can you
sorry.
go back? Can you wait?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Wait, no, not to the mushrooms, not to the mushrooms. Sorry. Yep. Keep going. Keep going. Just for me. Keep going. No.
I think we gotta
No.
go forward now.
Wait, yep, almost there.
The crossing cord.
That's so funny.
This one?
No, that's not it. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Cool.
You sure you saw something?
Yeah, I should have. Yep. Keep going.
We're going back to the beginning.
How did we get so far back?
Right, because you keep saying going back. I think you mean go forward.
Oh, forward. Yeah. Sorry.
What are you looking for?
No, you'll see it. As soon as you see it, you'll be
I
like,
saw it, Joe.
"Oh, I get it,
Crossing
I get it." Yep, keep going.
Is this something about your kids?
Yeah, it'll be fast. I just,
Decades Day was a fun day at our school.
oh, this is great. Yeah, that's it.
There we go.
Nice.
Oh, that's so great. I'm sorry. That is so great.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. I know our 5 minutes are up.
No, there's more time.
So there we go. So that's just an example of that. That's constantly rolling through on every day at the cafeteria. And so we're just trying to make sure the kids are involved and we're making sure that we have a positive culture during the building. So, all right. So the kids, you want to?
Want to say your name and why you joined the club?
Tiffany, can you pass the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. There you go. No, I think it's good. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ryan Kreft. I'm in 7th grade, and I've been attending the Woodland District since I was in kindergarten. And the reason I joined the Positive School Culture Club is I wanted to spread the positivity around the school for less hate and to inform students about our school events that are going on, I guess.
Hello. Oh, wait. Is this working?
Yep.
It's working.
Yeah.
I can't tell. Hello, my name is Bianca Dominguez. I am an 8th grader at the school. What else am I supposed to say? Oh, this is my 2nd year at Woodland. I go to Books and Beyond, and I am a part of the Students of Service. What else? I joined the club to make school a welcoming and fun place to be.
Okay, wait a minute. This is a test? Okay, I could at least hear myself. Okay, so I'm Jerry Rossetti. I'm an 8th grader. I've been in Woodland since kindergarten. I am an NJHS member, SOS, and a SOS member. And the reason why I joined the club was because, we need good people in our future, and if we have good people, our society will create a strong foundation for others that can follow us.
Hi, my name is Emma Pangiotopoulos. I am in 6th grade dual language, and I have been joining Woodland since kindergarten. I joined the Positive School Culture Club to make our school more happy because hate is getting spread more than love, and with everything going on in the world, hate is the last thing we need.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. And I think before we go, I think you guys have a gift for the board members.
All right, I got Jerry's, I got mine.
So tomorrow, actually, the past couple weeks, we have been pumpkin machines. We have been making lots of pumpkins to give to our teachers. So tomorrow, when this group gets off the bus, we are going to hand these out to the students so that they can write a note on the back and give it to a teacher that has been impactful to them. So.
That's awesome.
We have things for the group too. We've got certificates of appreciation.
Oh, wonderful! Great.
Emma?
Right. We really like the sugar
He loves handing out cookies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is to acknowledge. Our next agenda item is our attempt to acknowledge the hard work that our 4 amazing principals do each day. We ask our principals not only to be good building managers and make sure that the hot lunches are hot and that the buses come in and out on time, but we also challenge them to be instructional leaders and make sure that our students get what they need, whether it's from a social emotional standpoint or their academic growth. And I am so proud to consider Tiffany and Ryan and Stacy and Tim my colleagues. I was a principal for a long time, and I tell them every day I could not do what you do. I'm amazed and impressed every single day at your energy, your dedication, your compassion. I was at elementary today for their Halloween parties. Ryan Wolberg knows every single kid in Esco. Plus, he's pretty good at the games. I think that part might have been rigged, but it's amazing what you guys do for your kids and for your staff. It's humbling, and it's really reassuring to know that our children and our staff members are in such good hands. And not only do I and our district recognize your efforts, so does the state of Illinois. And if Ms. Hellgren was here, she would read this, I'm sure, much more eloquently than I, but I am pinch hitting. And so this proclamation says, whereas school principals play an integral role in the education and growth of children in elementary, middle, and secondary schools across the state of Illinois, and whereas school principals are responsible for promoting education and building relationships with teachers and parents to ensure that each child receives equitable educational opportunities and services to reach their potential. And whereas a primary responsibility of the state of Illinois is to preserve and improve resources for schools so that all students have access to quality education and foundation for a successful future. And whereas the Illinois Principals Association, which represents over 6,000 educational leaders statewide, believes that learning is a lifelong process and that the education of our children is its highest priority. And whereas school leaders face many obstacles in supporting and educating our young people, and through their perseverance, devotion, and passionate leadership, that Illinois continues to produce quality, career-ready students. And whereas school principals have continued to face unprecedented challenges since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, and have worked tirelessly to provide mental health, social emotional support, and uninterrupted learning to the members of their schools since 2020. And whereas we must continue to encourage, support, and recognize our school principals who have a positive impact on Illinois students and the educational systems in the land of Lincoln. Therefore, I, J.B. Pritzker, Governor of the State of Illinois, do hereby proclaim October 16th through the 22nd, 2022, as Principals Week, and Friday, October 21st, 2022, as Principals Day in Illinois. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the great seal of the state of Illinois to be affixed this 16th day of August in the year of our Lord 2022, and of the state of Illinois 204th. Okay, so
Something like that.
Right? Anyway, so we have something for all of you. So Stacy, can you come up, please? Thank you so much.
Those are cool.
Board members, anything to say?
Oh yeah, I in my dealings with principals through, having my kids in school, I am also continually amazed at everything that principals do and how you guys fit everything into a day. So thank you very much for everything that you do. It makes such a difference for our kids, and I admire you for what you do. Thank you.
Did you get teary-eyed? I just want to say, you all probably don't hear it from us all the time, but your work does not go unnoticed. We appreciate it. I don't know how you all find the energy, the passion, and the joy, but you all do, and you make us look good. You make our students happy. And when I'm scrolling through social media and I see you out with the kids playing or you clapping and Miss Anderson, all of you guys just being so interactive with our kids, it makes me feel good. I know that they're in good hands, so thank you.
I was going to go last.
Okay, I'll go next. When we moved here 4 years ago, we didn't have to move to Gurnee. And one of the things we looked at was schools. And my husband said, you know, the number one predictor of school success for a kid is parental involvement. But I know that's not true, because you all have made our transition to Woodland and Lucy's start to Woodland amazing. I see all the highlighting that Brooke does on social media of you, and I am just so happy that we moved here.
Yeah, being a teacher, you know, I see it again on the Facebook pages, everything that you guys truly love your buildings, you love your teachers, you love your kids, and we're lucky to have you guys. So thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be thanked enough, in my opinion. I look back at like the last my time in the past 5 years at Woodland and everything that, you know, with COVID that we and just the world today that we've been through, and how gracefully you've handled it, and how thoughtfully, and how much strength you've shown, and I'm just really amazed by your leadership. And I feel so lucky and so fortunate that our kids have you as building leaders, because you do such an exceptional job. And you know, the proclamation couldn't have been long enough in my estimation. So thank you very much for everything that you do for us.
If we let them go, we're going to have them stay all the time. You can leave early.
Okay. Next, we're on to citizen statements. Board invites members of the public to address the board. If you did not sign up online, please use the sheet provided. It's over there. Are there any citizens who signed up on the line? Yeah. Okay. When your name is called, please state your name and affiliation with the district. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. And also, if you could let us know how you would like to. How you would like for us to, would you like an email, would you like a phone call, following up afterwards? But this isn't a question and answer session, so you just have to let us know how you want us to contact you. I believe this is Anjanetta Pricen? Pricen, am I saying this right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Anjanetta Frison. This is my child's second year in the district. So we started right here. Now we're over here with Mr. Ryan. So I am here to talk about diversity and inclusion. It was very insightful to hear the group from the older school talking about coming together, cultural, social, emotional, let's get rid of hate. So that was very inspiring for me to hear. So one of the things that I am concerned about since I have been in this district is more diversity and inclusion as it relates to the staff, the administration, and engaging parents of color. So I want to make sure that there is representation for people such as myself and other people that are don't look like a lot of people in the room. So if I can get on a board, a committee, I would appreciate it, because we need representation matters. So I would like to follow up with email. My email is listed, or Mr. Ryan should have it. Mr. Mack, you should have it. I sent you an email in August. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Renee?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Brianna?
Yes.
Carla? Joe?
Yes.
Lizzie? Motion carries 5-0.
All right, we're on to action items. So our first item A is the approval of 2 FTE English as second language teacher positions. Can I please have a motion to approve these 2 FTE English as a second language teaching positions? 1 FTE at the middle school and 1 FTE at the primary school.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? You want anything to say, Dr. Majek?
Yes, well, first of all, I want to thank Elizabeth Sanchez-Cepezi and her team in the dual language program, because obviously we try to staff based on what our student numbers are, and there was as students continued to register when the school year started, there are parameters that we have to follow from the state. One of them is that in a bilingual classroom can be at 90%, and Elizabeth, help me if I'm saying this incorrectly, but it can be 90% capacity of the average gen ed classroom. With the numbers of students who came in who required additional support in literacy, English literacy, we needed to add a section, and one of the middle school teachers in our dual language program has actually stepped up and is willing to take on an additional section in lieu of a plan time, so that not only we can meet the state requirement, but also that the students can get the attention that they need in the classroom. And so adding this position at the middle school will certainly help that situation. At primary, it really is a matter of, we're trying to cover the minutes and the programs that students need. We just don't, the person is spread too thin, and we just need an additional FTE to support our students at the kindergarten level. And so, we've been doing, and people have been giving up, as I said, plan time, lunchtime, to do that, and getting this additional staff would really help not only alleviate that situation, but more importantly, give the students the help that they need.
Any discussion, questions? One of the things we talked about when we approved the staffing plan was going back and, if needed, making changes and being open and amenable and receptive to student needs. Down the line, I think this is that. So, okay. If that's all for discussion, then roll call vote.
Corey?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Brianna?
Yes.
Carla? Joe?
Yes.
Lizzie? And Renee? Yes. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, item B is the approval of 3 FTE paraprofessionals at Woodland Primary. Can I please have a motion to approve the 3 FTE paraprofessionals positions at Woodland Primary School as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Dr. Majek?
Yes, so again, the concept of having our district students in our district schools and in the least restrictive environment, we very much desire to be able to have all of our students attend our school. We've got some students at primary that have some needs, and it's been fairly well documented in terms of our special ed co-op. Really has had a hard time filling positions as schools across the country have, really. And one of the things in terms of really figuring out, I think we can meet our students' needs here with a little bit of additional support. And so working with Ms. Anderson, we're confident that we can do what we need to do for these students if we have a bit more support. Some of the students are already in the process of having case studies to perhaps see if they needed some additional special services. And so if we were to have these positions in the gen ed classroom, they could support our teacher and the students in that capacity. If some of the students that we're trying to assist end up having an IEP, then most likely we would need those supports anyway as part of a plan to help those students meet their needs. So one way or the other, having those kids in our school, which is an awesome thing, we anticipate we would need some additional support
to help them be successful.
Any discussion? Okay. Vote?
Anna,
Yes.
Brianna,
Yes.
Carla, Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie, Renee,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, the next item is the approval of the tax levy certification for truth in taxation notice. Can I please have a motion to approve the estimated amounts necessary to be levied for the year 2022 as presented and direct the publication of the certification for truth in taxation notice?
Motion.
Second. Whoops, either one.
Okay. Discussion, Mr. Butler?
Presentation.
Presentation. So it'd be good.
Tax levy time again. This tax levy is going to be a little bit different than all of our previous tax levies. Important dates. It's important to know that they are very specific about the tax levy, especially when you hit the tax cap. Tonight we will be certifying the levy estimate. That's why we're doing the presentation now. Typically we would do it as a report after we've already certified what we're going to put into the newspaper, the publication, because it's not necessary. Even having a budget hearing is not necessary, but this year it is definitely necessary. We have to post. We'll post in the Daily Herald in between 7 and 14 days prior to the levy hearing. Obviously on the 17th we will have that levy hearing, and then we must file by the last Tuesday in December. Levy is broken up into two pieces. You have the operating levy. That's what is the portion that is tax capped. That pays for all of our operational expenses, salaries, benefits, supplies, etc. Bond and interest, that was determined when we went out and we borrowed our 2017 issuance, and then we did it once again in 2021. We've got the issuance. We submitted that to the county clerk. The county clerk, on our behalf, levies for us and just extends us the money. We do not have to ask for the money because we've already asked for the money when we went through that process. It's not covered under PTEL as well, which is we'll get into in a little bit. And when I say a little bit, I mean now. PTEL, Property Tax Extension Limitation Law. 92, it came into effect. It caps a district at 5% or CPI, or whichever is lower. Since 2003, we're looking at about 2.32%. A year ago, that number would have been closer to 2%. Since 2013, 2.15%. A year ago, it would have been probably closer to 1.9, 1.85%. CPI last year was 7%. We have never gone over 5% since the PTEL has come into effect. Interestingly enough, the funds that are levied, we'll actually collect them. Technically, they're supposed to be for the following school year, 23-24, but they do come in May and June. We receive them in May and June, so we record them in May and June of this year. We've got 7%, which will turn out to be somewhere closer to 5%, and then we also are going off of last year's, which is 1.3%. There's a little chart of historical CPI. You can see the big spike that we just had. I believe in the past, the highest amount CPI has ever been is 4.1%. Related to the formula that we use is our EAV, and that's our Equalized Assessed Valuation. Once upon a time in this district, the valuation was closer to $2 billion. That was right before that housing crash in 2007, 2008, right around then. It's gone down. It's slowly built its way back up. We're looking at about, and this is an estimate from the county, about a 7.04% increase. We all know that housing prices have gone up. We'll see what happens next year because rates are very, very high when we're talking about mortgages. One of the big numbers to look at is the new construction. And this is going to be part of the piece of the formula because when they talk about capping you at 5%, that's 5% of the existing. It doesn't include new construction. New construction is new money that comes onto the tax rolls. Therefore, we can collect over the 5% because all we're doing is we're collecting that new money that comes in from all of that new construction. Formula, it's not terribly complicated. There's a couple pieces that I've left out with annexation and things like that that don't pertain to us. It's the prior year's extension multiplied by 1 plus CPI. And then the denominator is your total EAV, and then you take out the new construction. And that's what gets you to your limiting rate. That's why our rate will go up. And instead of 5%, it'll be a little bit over 5%. Our last year's extension was $70 million. CPI was 7%. We'll be capped at 5%. We have our estimated EAV and our estimated new construction. We put it into the formula. Here is our limiting rate at 3.99413%. That means that our capped extension rate, based off of the estimates, is right about $73,813,000. We also have our bond extension. CEDAW, there's a piece that we levy on behalf of CEDAW for being part of the cooperative, and then we have our debt service payment as well. I wish I could make this bigger, but there's just a lot of numbers on the screen. It's going to detail what our prior year extension was in each of our funds. It's going to detail, I'll tell you down here, what our cap levy was and what our bond and interest payments were. This is going to be our request in this yellow column here. We're going all the way up to $75.5 million. And if you see, that actually comes out to about 7.83%. Why do we levy over the 5%? Or why do we even levy over what we think we're going to get? Because we really don't know what our EAV is going to be. We won't know until March. And we really don't know what our new construction is going to be. Last year, the county was off by about $4 million. We don't want to miss out on those dollars, because if you do, that's perpetual. You can never reclaim those dollars. So in our operating levy, in typical years, like I said, it's been about 2% on average. We'll levy closer to 4.8, 4.9%. So you give it about a 2.5% bump. What are we doing here? We believe it's going to wind up being 5.35%. That's with the new construction. We're giving it about a 2.5% bump. That gives us a cushion, a fairly, it's a nice cushion to have. There is no penalty for levying 7%, 20%, 150%. There is a penalty if you levy below. So when it's all said and done, because we are still working with the, when we borrowed back in 2021, part of that borrowing was that our principal and interest payments were going to go down for a couple of years. It's going to go down from the previous year in our estimate. So when it's all said and done, I believe we're going to be closer to 4.99%, just under the 5%. But the only one that matters for PTEL is up here. This is new for this year. I'm not necessarily sure why they put it in, but they say you have to have cash balances, and it's supposed to be in your bond or your levy hearing presentation. I'm going to put it in this presentation because why not? I'd rather be safe than sorry. I've added in here what our cash balances are, and you can see the total up here. I've added in what our expected extension is. So you can see this is at the 4.99%. Really, all of the law just says is that you have to mention it. I could say it's $85 million, and that would suffice, but we're going to put it in the presentation. I also wanted to show what the expenditures were. There we go. My finger was in front of it. $100 million in expenditures, about $78 million in levy. It's consistent with what we have. Our levy is roughly 80% of what, it's 80% of all revenues, and it's going to be a little bit less. So when it's all said and done, I know we had projected somewhere around a loss of $4.218 million. A lot of that's due to capital projects. This is what we're here to approve. This has to be very, very, very specific. The wording is specific. The numbering is specific. Everything that we put in is specific. This is what you're going to certify. It's everything that I just talked about in the format that they want. I've said we're going to tentatively schedule it for November 8th. I'm going to put it in on the 4th. I want to see it because it has to be a certain way in the newspaper, and if it doesn't go in a certain way in the newspaper, then I'm going to re-put it. I'm going to get it back to the paper just to make sure. But we're going to give them specific instructions. They do a very good job for us. That is it in a nutshell. You're going to hear the same presentation with maybe one or two more slides. That presentation is more for the public because it is the hearing. But you're going to get a lot of these same slides over again. Any questions?
Board members, anyone? Okay. Roll call vote.
Brianna.
Yes.
Carla. Joe.
Yes.
Lizzie. Renee.
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, our next item is the approval of the Erickson Engineering to conduct asphalt project. Can I please have a motion to approve the Erickson Engineering asphalt replacement proposal as presented?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
It's the project that we talked about at the last board meeting. It's going to be a district-wide project. It's going to be multi-year. We've got some paving, parking lots, and playground blacktop areas that are in disrepair that need some replacement. So we're going to have Erickson come out. They're going to do tests. We've got an idea of which ones are in the worst shape, but they're going to confirm. And then we're going to go through the process. It's going to be lots of asphalt replacement over the next 4, 5, 6 years.
Board members? Okay, roll call vote.
Carla? Joe?
Yes.
Lizzie? Renee?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Brianna?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, the next is item E, approval of elementary school office bid. Can I please have a motion for Woodland School District to accept the summer 2023 elementary school central office construction project low bid by Manusos General Contracting at a cost of $1,061,144.
Second? Do we need a second?
Yeah, we need this.
Second.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who made it first?
Renee.
Oh, Renee. Okay, sorry.
Mr. Robeck?
This is the project that was bid in the spring. Initial estimates on what they believed the cost were to be was closer to $700,000, $800,000. The firm that we used said that the bidding has been crazy. The influx of money that's been happening from the federal government, there are just projects everywhere. So we went out to rebid, and they came back and they said the estimate was going to be higher than they anticipated. So it came back. It's less than the original. The original was $1.2 million. This is at $1,060,000. So it is less, not as reduced as we had hoped. But like I said, the architects had said that they just had an incredibly tough time trying to estimate in the market, and they said that they got that estimate completely wrong. So we're waiting a year. We're saving a little bit of money. $140,000 is not bad. It would have been better if it was $500,000, but if we wait any longer, I would expect that this would go up significantly.
I know we've talked about this a lot. Dr. Majic, do you have anything that you'd like to add about why we need to do this?
Well, I think this is sort of the physical sort of it's emblematic of the what we're trying to do philosophically with the elementary school, which is bringing the two sides of the building together into one school and redoing that central office to literally a central area of the building. I think is really important, and I think in terms of right now visiting the school, the health office, because we started moving things around in anticipation of this particular project. It's been a bit of a stressor on the folks, the nurses and the health assistants, as well as the students, because we planned the location of the health office was planned with this renovation in mind, and when the renovation didn't happen, the health office moved, but the office didn't. So, I certainly would concur with Chris that this seems to be as good as a bid as we're going to get at this point, and my recommendation would be either we accept it and you approve it, or we scrap the idea and come up with something else internally and kind of make do with what we have. But I would really hope that you would approve this bid.
Board members? Okay, let's vote.
Joe?
Yes.
Lizzie? Renee?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Brianna?
Yes.
Carla? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Item F is approval of strategic plan facilitator processes and timeline. At first, we need to move to approve the 2023 through 28 strategic plan process timelines and facilitators as presented, and then we can talk about what we'd like to do. So can I get a motion to approve the 2023-28 strategic plan process timelines and facilitators presented?
Motion.
Second.
All right, discussion. Dr. Matrix, can you kind of take us through, give us an update where we stand with this right now?
Sure. So on October 13th, the board met as a committee of the whole, and there were 3 presentations from 3 very well-known and very well-respected groups or individuals who have done a number of strategic plans, not only throughout the suburbs, but actually in our geographical area. The first one was the Catalyst for Educational Change. The person who came out to present was known to the board because she was Dr. Monari was a former ISB field services rep who had worked with Woodlands, so she was familiar with our district. The second person who presented was Dr. Robert Madonia, who is also very familiar to Woodland, having completed or facilitated the process for our current 5-year strategic plan. And then the third person to come in was Dr. Joe Porto, who had done strategic plans and was recommended to me by administrators in he had done Round Lake, Wakanda, Antioch, and had done Warren's current plan. So all 3 came in with their presentations, and I think the common thread for me is that all 3 of these groups as facilitators, they facilitate a process. It would certainly be incumbent on my administrative team and our staff to collect all the data, to do all the work, to compile any responses from community groups, regardless of which of these 3 or somebody else that the board selected. So what we would be paying for, I think the one difference was the Catalyst for Educational Change. Their selling point was a lot of professional development and support for our staff and our administration after the plan had been completed. But it was sort of on an a la carte menu, and you could pay for different types of consultation. In terms of prices, Dr. Porto and Dr. Madonia were pretty similar. But yeah, you're paying for someone a third-party objective person to come in and facilitate a process and get our community to articulate where it is we want to go in terms of what we'd like to see for our children in our school district for the next 3 to 5 years. So that's where we are.
Dr. Matrix, during the presentations, we talked a bit as a board about doing the strategic planning, facilitating in-house, about perhaps you and your team leading that. Can you take us through what that might look like?
Sure. So one of the appealing pieces about having somebody from the outside is, when you don't know people or have a history, there's a perception, if not a reality, that the person coming in could be more objective and maybe have conversations, or maybe people get feedback from people that as an administrator or potentially somebody's supervisor, that could somebody be uncomfortable sharing something with an internal facilitator. But as I mentioned previously, collecting data or part of any strategic plan would be an evaluation of where we are currently, whether it's how our students are doing academically, whether taking a deep dive into our discipline numbers and how some of our student groups are overrepresented for discipline, or what we're doing in the areas of SEL or finance. Anybody who comes in, our administrative team would have to put together data for that person to share with whether it's small groups or a larger audience. But in terms of knowing the current reality, I think that the current leadership team is well positioned to be able to articulate that. I mean, we meet multiple times a week to talk about what's working and how do we extend it, and what's not working and how do we get better at it. So we certainly understand to a great extent what our needs are. I think we have relationships with our community members, and that was some of the challenges that the different presenters had. One person said, well, I cap my focus groups at 30 people. Well, there's 7 zip codes represented by Woodland, and as our we heard tonight, I mean, we need representation from all areas of the district, and I know there was conversation of how would you cap it at 30 people. There was conversation that equity was not something that was raised by really any of the facilitators, but it was something that we asked when we were asking questions. I think those kinds of challenges could be better addressed if the district were facilitating this process, because we know that's important to us and we know that's something that we need to get feedback on and get better at. So what it would look like, we could certainly honor the same time frame, and the board talked about beginning a strategic plan process in January after winter break. So the process wouldn't need to change. I think what would change with an internal facilitator is that I think we'd have to have a lot of discussions about and be transparent to make sure that that if we had a group of teachers, for example, or a group of parents, and even including students, that we would want to make sure that we get honest feedback and critical feedback if there's something to be critical about, without feeling like, well, there's going to be repercussions, or I can't say that because I see this person every day, or that person's a leader on my team or in my building. But I think starting early enough, if that was the way the board wanted to go, we could address that. Some of those challenges you don't have with an outside facilitator, but again, anybody from the outside is not going to know our district as well as the people in this room know it.
So what I'm hearing you say is there's a data gathering piece before that we would be doing anyways.
Yes.
That we work with.
Correct.
And then there's putting the plan in action that we would also be doing afterwards, that no matter who we work with. And you're pretty confident that our team can do the facilitation based on just the talent, ability, folks we have.
Yeah, I'm very confident that we could do so. And the other piece, the big piece that has been, in my opinion, missing from our current plan, and also didn't really hear from the people who presented, was, we've got the goals and we've got goal areas, but then what does success in that area look like? And having some sort of performance indicator to say, yes, we reached this goal, or we exceeded our expectations. So to say you've done something and check a box is very different than saying, well, we did it, and as a result of having done it, we're better in this area. And I think, again, internally, we have those conversations, the principals have those conversations with their teachers every single day. And I think we would be well positioned to be able to say, you know what, if we're saying that all voices are heard in our school, like people at primary could articulate, here's what that would look like in our building if that was happening. People at middle school, as you saw tonight, could say, here's what this looks like if all voices are being heard. I think somebody from the outside is going to have to depend on us to be able to do that anyway. And there's also, although none of the conversation, which I appreciate, it's been about, with the board, it's been about getting the best facilitator. Not once have I heard, well, this person's too expensive, or why are we going to pay that much? You wanted the best group, but there's certainly, money's money, and the fact of the matter is, going with internally, you would not have to pay an outside facilitator.
Board members?
I have many thoughts to share. So if anybody else wants to go first, please do.
You probably got our thoughts. Just
Okay, all right, we'll
let 'em
see.
go.
We'll shoot for it. I think that bringing a consultant, you had mentioned, Dr. Maychuk, that a consultant that comes in may be more objective. And I think that is critical, because I think that a lot of this process, to me, is about self-evaluation. Like, the goal is to have something that we can then measure ourselves against in the future. And I think that that's the most important part, and the best way to do that is to have somebody come in, because they work with a lot of districts, right? And so they're going to bring in ideas from other districts, things that they've seen done in other places that we may not even know are possible. So that's my thought about that. And I think that it's important in this process to involve people who might be dissenting voices, like people who might be, critical of things that we're doing, because we need those voices. And I know during the pandemic that we had kind of been doing a lot of the evaluating how well we're, following the strategic plan, and I think that has been a weakness of this plan that we've had. I really liked some of the responses we got from Dr. Porto about, we had asked for kind of some tweaks to his process, and he was flexible and willing to work with us on those things. And one of them was, kind of having a bigger group of stakeholders involved. And like you say, we are a very large district, and so to me, that I like that he was flexible about that. And I also think that his comments and his presentation about how he would help us to evaluate ourselves and how well we're sticking to the plan were really impressive to me. So I think that he also was, I think, willing to be a little more flexible about how long of a plan we have and kind of compromise with us on that. He really, prefers to stick to a 3-year plan. We had said we preferred a 5, and he'd said, would you compromise, at 4? And I think, that we should be open to that because his reasoning for that was really good. So those are my thoughts. I mean, I think that his process focused on improvement and, the whole good to great idea. And I think there are a whole lot of things that we do well. But I think we always need to be asking, could we do these better? If something is good, could it be great, and how could we get there? So I was really excited reading his responses to the questions, because when we had the presentations, there were kind of a lot of questions, and the way he answered those, I was really happy with. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Do you prefer Dr. Porto?
Very much, yes. Oh, and I also wanted to say that the current plan that we have, I think, I'm not saying that we should have change just for the sake of change, but I don't know that the same, working with the same consultant will provide us necessarily, with a better product. And I think that I don't really know the history of strategic planning in this district, but I think that it might be good to have some change, because COVID really just did a number on our strategic planning. So it's impossible to know how that would have worked out otherwise. But I think that definitely kind of the evaluation as things went along was a weakness, and I feel like that's something Dr. Porto offered us that was a strength. Thank you.
Who's next?
How about you?
I liked D the least. What was the catalyst?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even remember her name. I liked her the least. I think the time commitment that she required, or that her group required, was too much. I still didn't get a clear answer to the question how many of these they have that she's overseen herself. I read her answer, but it was more of a general answer and not what I was really looking for. Dr. Porto, he was okay. He wasn't high on my list. And Dr. Madonia was a little bit higher for me. Now, that was based on the experience that I had before with the strategic planning. But in kind of like what Anna said, there are some things that we do well, but some things we could work on. I believe with our last strategic plan, or the one that we're in right now, we didn't have a lot of implementation. And part of that is with COVID, but we also didn't hear about equity, equality, inclusivity, and those things are important to me and our stakeholders as well. My rationale for suggesting that we do it in-house, it wasn't about money, but I just feel like we know our district and our parents and our stakeholders and our administrators and teachers. We know our district better than anyone. Yes, there will be people who may be a little bit nervous because of they might think they're going to be retaliated against, but I think if we can do a good job to ease those fears, that's our charge, I think, and we should be able to do that. But I want us, when we do the strategic plan, like Anna said, not to just do it for the sake of change. I want us to do it with the mindset that we are going into it, knowing what we're getting into, knowing what our district needs, and then we can facilitate from there based on the needs that we have. And we have to be ready to take some things that are not great and deal with it and, you know, get better. But if I had to choose from either of these three, it would be Dr. Madonia, but I really didn't care for either of them for the amount of money. I just felt like maybe there's something better, and that something better might just be us.
So for me, it's really down to either working with Dr. Porto or doing it in-house. You had asked a question at the presentations of Dr. Madonia about doing Zoom.
Yep.
And he didn't reach out to set up times to do the yearly planning.
Right.
So it's like, why do we want to reward him for not helping us? So that's kind of why he's lower for me.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest concern with going in-house is finding the people that have the talent to facilitate and making sure that we're not overburdening that or those people on top of their regular duties.
I get
Okay.
that.
So Dr. Porto or in-house?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't able to attend, obviously, the presentations, but based on the responses, I think we'll be good with either of them. My only concern of doing internal, again, is kind of what you're saying, is just taxing our current, and then it's a new perspective if we bring someone new, and I think there's something you said about that it's going to be hard to bring up the bad or the things that need change if it's like the echo chamber of all of us being heard. So I think there is something said about outside perspective.
So did you say Dr. Porto, Dr. Madonia, or in-house?
I prefer not in-house, just for the sake of bringing a new perspective in. But if we think we have the team that can handle it, I support that.
And of the two proposals that you took a look at, which did you prefer?
I didn't side really with either one of them. I mean, I saw positives in both. Porto seemed a little more responsive on the answers.
Okay. I could have our administrative team do this and feel comfortable with it. I hear your concerns about wanting to make sure that the person coming in is objective. I do, just, to be fully upfront, the story that our district tells to the facilitator and the plan that comes out in our ability to put that plan in action matter a lot more to me than the facilitation. I just think that what we're asking of the facilitator isn't nearly what we're asking of the team to make it happen. And I think as a board we can have a lot of control over that process with the administrator's help and also with the teacher's help. I think our teachers are going to have to be very involved in this process for it to be meaningful. But that isn't something that the facilitator necessarily can go out and know our buildings well enough to be able to make sure of, right? So we have to do so much work in the beginning to make it work, and then so much work afterwards to make it work. For me, if we feel like that objective voice is really important, I think I'd feel more comfortable with Dr. Porto. I think that he had a little bit stronger presentation, and also I'm kind of interested in what he has to offer in terms of good to great. So I guess if we could do this in stages, it seems like Dr. Porto, of the people that we saw, has more of a consensus. The last question then is, do we want to do it in-house or out? So take a second to think about it. Maybe we can go around the table and just in-house or Dr. Porto. And then if we have consensus, we'll move on.
So I'm not going to lawyer
Yeah.
and do closing arguments.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna kind of do closing arguments, right? So just, you know.
Good, yeah.
So this is basically, we've done the facilitators, right? We've seen what they can do. We did that with the last strategic plan. And I think we're all in agreement that we need some definite tweaks to the strategic plan that we have. The benefit of doing this in-house is, like I said, we know our district better than anybody. We know our needs, we know our strengths, and we know our weaknesses. But what we as a board don't know, we have boots on the ground. We got willing and capable teachers, because I'm sure we have somebody who would want to help us with this. But we have great administrators. Our stakeholders are interested. Now, I don't know that they would be willing to give up 24 hours out of their month to do it, because that's a lot even for me, and I'm a board member. But I think that we have enough community action and enough strong administrators and teachers that we can get this done. And not only can we get it done, we can get it done with the voices that we need to hear. Because Dr. Madonia, Dr. Porto, whoever comes in, all they are is really a microphone to echo what we have to say. We can do that on our own. And we can listen to not only just the teachers and things like that, we have our children in the district. We know our buildings. We know what our funding is. We know what we can and what we cannot do. I don't think us telling someone else what our needs are, for them to package it up for us, to tell us this is how we should do it, I don't know that we're getting the best bang for our buck. Because even though we're telling them, it's almost like the hearsay rule. They're just hearing it from us. But we know because we do it. We're here. And I'm not very concerned about retaliation, because we as the board, we're the leaders, so we set the pace. And because we set the pace, there will be no retaliation. That's a part of why we need you to do this. And once we set the pace with that, then our district becomes more transparent. We have more trust, and our stakeholders trust us more, our students, everybody has a voice. So I am going to ask, and I almost took us to court, but I'm not. I am going to ask that we strongly consider looking in-house. And even if you don't agree, just at least really, really think about what it is we want from the plan. Because once we decide what the plan is, we then know how to implement it, because we wrote it.
Yeah, I'm okay. Again, I'm 100% okay with the house. I just want to make sure someone's willing to take on that workload and the responsibility behind it, because it's going to be in something in addition than what we're currently doing. So as long as we can say that, I'm 100% on board. And you described how many people we have that are willing. I support that.
Well, I'm saying what I think. I'm gonna take a poll. But I'm sure we have some.
Because I know there's resources out there. I know there's going to be resources for how to run the meetings, how to collect the data, how to facilitate the tough conversations. I understand all that information to be out there, but I just want to make sure that we have a strong team willing to take on that responsibility.
And Dr. Major, so we do, right? I mean, you're saying that we do.
Yes.
You want to try that again?
Here's a yes or no
question. No, but I do think the part of it that again, and it would be great to have, out of the three people that I saw, certainly Dr. Porto rose to the top of the list for me, and I said that on the 13th. But in terms of what's appealing, and I will tell you that there's none of my administrative colleagues, none of us is afraid of hard work, right? So there's that. But I think the other thing is that knowing the plan and working with the board and the community to create the plan, I also think there's a sense of ownership, right? And I will tell you now, coming in new, you look at the plan, and there were people kind of scratching their head, and well, I can't remember what they meant by that, or, well, yeah, I didn't really want it that way, but So, I mean, I think the more involved that we are internally in creating it, I also think the more we would own the outcome, that it's our, collectively our plan, not a plan that somebody else made for us and it's in a binder somewhere. So, all that said, I mean, if there's a way to share the load with, Dr. Porto, I would be fine with that too. We could do it if I have confidence in my team and in our teaching staff and our community. I know you do too. So whatever the board decides, we will make it happen.
I think it's, when you say share the load, I think that that's really what hiring a consultant would do for us, because it's, like you said, either way, there's quite a bit that the administrative team has to do. But having somebody who does this every day, and, it's really more, it's about sharing the load and having another perspective. I feel like having, someone from outside come in is, we can still have all of those voices that we, teachers, administrators, parents, all of those people will be involved. I think it's more down to us hearing that input and putting it into the plan and how receptive we are to that. And like I say, especially when it might be critical of what we have been doing. I mean, I feel like sometimes the updates we've gotten about the strategic plan have been very positive and flowery, and then some of the things that we've had to address as a board have been counter to what we've heard. So I just feel like that element, the outside perspective, is so important to me that I would rather have Dr. Porto help us. And it's so, the self-evaluation, I think, is critical, and it's something that I feel like he will do well for us. I just feel like we need outside voices. I mean, do we know our district? Yes. But I feel like having an outside voice is always going to make us more well-rounded. It's going to help us understand what other districts are doing that have worked. And Renee, when you were saying, that we are kind of giving data to them and having them give it back to us, that's how therapy works. You go in, you say what your issues are, and sometimes they just repeat it back to you, and you go, oh, it can be very transformative to say what you want to do and then hear that maybe repeated to you in a different way, or here's how I've seen other districts do that, and it might be something that we would never have thought of. So that's just kind of what it made me think about when you said that. It's like, yes, sometimes things can be lost in that translation, but I think things can also be gained, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So my preference is still very much to have a consultant.
I'm so torn.
Don't be that one juror.
No pressure, no pressure.
I don't need to, ramble my thoughts, I don't think, but if I had to make just one off my gut, I would say in-house over Dr. Porto.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I think that the idea that we can, to Dr. Machin's point, have ownership at kind of deeper level, I think that's pretty attractive to me. And also, I think it's kind of an awesome challenge. I'd like to see folks be able to facilitate it and to see what they do. Having gone through the first strategic plan, I can say that to put words on paper, it's not that hard. Words on paper don't change the district. It doesn't move things. And that can go in a drawer, and nobody knows the mission statement, and nobody knows what it is. And if there are ways to avoid that, that's what I'm most interested in. And this sounds like it might be a way to do that and save the district a few dollars financially. So that's where I stand. Okay, so now we vote. So we're basically voting now to do our strategic plan with the timeline as presented in-house.
I just have one more question. Do we want to move forward without Dr. Little and Lizzie here?
That's a good point.
Well, that's if anyone feels so torn that they need to hear from Dr. Little or Lizzie, then we can take that into account. When I added it up, it was 4-1. So that for me was enough of a consensus to move forward because it would be 4-3. But if anybody thinks like I would probably change my vote based on what they said, then we can push it to next month, and that we would be delaying the strategic plan a little bit. But what can you do? They're not here. Folks need this. So is anybody just hesitant moving forward right now?
I'm not.
No? Court? Ms. Rowan?
I'm good.
Okay, no, so we'll vote.
Do we need to restate
a new motion?
what we're voting on? Yeah.
I think you need a new motion.
Okay, so I'll make it.
Okay.
I move to approve the 2023-28 strategic plan process, timelines, and facilitator in-house as just discussed.
Second.
Okay, just hold on 1 second so I can get the wording down. Lizzie? Renee?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Brianna?
Yes.
Carla? And Joe?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, we're on to reports and discussions. The first is a written report and presentation on student interventions. So school principals Stacey Anderson, Ryan Wolberg, Tim Sheldon, and Tiffany Drake, along with Dr. Machek, will update the board on the first quarter interventions taking place at each of the schools. A written report was provided in your document, and the principals will share a PowerPoint.
All right, I guess I'm first. I don't know if someone's gonna click, maybe, or.
Mr. Rose, did you want an introduction? I mean, because everything was in your packet, so you want me to kind of.
Yeah, I would love that.
I apologize. So yes, thank you. One of the things that we've started this year, talking about accountability and how to get better, we've instituted something called data meetings. And so I've been meeting, we've met twice now. The principals and I have met to go over different data, look at data through different lenses. So the first time we met, we were just looking at interventions and making sure that we knew which students in each school needed something additional. They were kind of on the radar, and then what was going to be in place. Now that was early on in the year, so we didn't have information about how they were doing. But I left those conversations really confident that our principals knew the children in their school, and they knew the ones who needed something different or something extra. So then the second round of data meetings talked about discipline. And one of the challenges that in my previous role as associate superintendent, Dr. Casey, and I talked about this a lot, was the over-identification of, for example, our black population, student population is about 10%, and yet our black students, particularly our black male students, are way overrepresented in terms of the number of office referrals and suspensions. And we need to work on that and fix that. And so one of the things that we started talking about was asking the principals to look at their SWIS data, their office referral data. So we were talking about discipline, and the conversation was phrased as a series of questions, and really it was based on the PLC model. So like how do our students know these behavior expectations in our school? And how do we know that they're following those expectations? What do we do when they're not following those expectations? What's in place in terms of incentives or acknowledgments for students who are already following those expectations? And so the principals, when we started talking, we met together and with Dr. Walls, and there were so many great ideas, and principals like sharing, oh, that's really cool. I could probably modify that in my building. And I mean, the idea of the student, the climate and culture club at the middle school came up, and everybody was scratching those feverishly as Tiffany was explaining what they were doing. And so anyway, I thought it would be really cool, and really I'm so grateful for their leadership in this area that kind of talk about what we're doing in each of our schools in terms of helping kids who need something different or extra. So that's what we have.
Okay, so I think I'll start. I'll go first. So at primary, we have the youngest Wildcats, and so we bear the responsibility of laying the foundation for our PBIS setting and really truly explaining what expectations mean. So when you're 3, 4, and 5, learning what school is and how we act in different settings is super important, right? How you act in the gym is very different than how you act in the hallway and recess and classroom and all different settings. And so we really set our goals in the beginning of the year on these roar stations because we don't like to talk at students, especially 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, right? So we model. We have them visit the actual area. What does it look like to behave in that area? You know, how do we come together and work as a team in that area? So not only, you know, targeting the individual behaviors, but then we are also viewed as a group, right? Like our class is our home, our class is our family, and so when we go to the lunchroom, we are Mrs. Butel's class, or we are, you know, part of a group. And so that is how we begin the year. We spend a lot of time doing that. That's really our curriculum in the beginning, is making sure students understand and feel comfortable in our setting, and then knowing that we have to assume they don't know how to act. We really actually take that perspective. Like, we can't expect them to know how to line up and things like that. So that's what those roar stations are. The second piece that we're so excited to bring back, which it has been a couple of years because of COVID, is our Wildcat Wednesdays. Those are our community days, and that's one Wednesday a month, the first Wednesday of the month, and we get together, all of us, in the gym, and we have a wonderful pep rally, for lack of a better word. We celebrate birthdays. We have a performance. Our teachers perform a skit each month that models an expectation. So our skit for October was Mean Jean the Recess Queen, and we discussed why Mean Jean didn't have friends, right? Like, this is my world, right? So we talk about that, and we actually have a skit, and then Wiley comes, and it's just a super fun way for students to, number one, know that they're part of a really big school. They sometimes are like, whoa, there's a lot of kids here. We're like, yeah, they're here every day, but they don't know that, right? Because they're in their own little corner of the world. So it builds community, and it builds those expectations. And then we have roar points, but what's really important to us is that we are not, at this age group, we're not giving trinkets, right? We know how those can be lost on the bus or choking hazard. And so for us, they have a menu of choices. They might get to bring a stuffy to school one day. They might get to sit in the teacher's desk. And so they're working for those, you know, wonderful, fun experiences versus a trinket. We have hallway heroes. We talk about how we act in the hallway. Believe it or not, lining up in a line and walking from one place to another is challenging in the beginning of the year. We even forget. You know, we leave in June, and then in August we're like, it's like, you know, trying to get everybody to walk and, you know, stay on their side of the hallway and follow the rules of the road. And so we have hallway heroes where we build compliments to each other. So instead of just worrying about how they're behaving, they're looking at their peers, and they're giving hallway hero tickets that we talk about at Wildcat Wednesday. And then last, Wiley is the star of all of our videos. We use a lot of videos because we have smart boards in all of our rooms, and so we bring in a morning show every day. And on Fridays or special occasions, like we've been doing a lot of safety drills. And so for us, it's important that students don't worry about safety at school, right? We don't want to scare them with lockdown drills and some of those realities that are there. Instead, we want them to know that when there's emergencies, this is how we behave and that they are safe. And so Wiley is the number one way to reach them. They're like, yeah, remember Wiley. I was telling a story at the PTA meeting that I was observing in a classroom, and 3 little girls in the Dramatic Play Center were imitating the disaster drill. It was so cute. They were like, I'm the principal, you're the teacher, get down, put your heads down, and they were going through the whole motions. And so instead of something fearful, they thought that's just part of school, and our teachers are teaching us how to be safe. So those are the things that we put in place, and then supporting social and emotional development. This is really key at our age group. We continue to see more and more students coming in with more and more needs with the lack of attending preschool or having those social interactions due to COVID. There weren't as many park play dates and things like that. And so bottom line, we use our second step curriculum, which has puppets and songs, and again, modeling our PBIS lessons. They're also called Cool Tools. Those are all modeling where they're role playing how to behave, how to share with a friend, and hands-on. And then this year we've added the Little Spot books. Those cover emotional feelings, and those line up with our zones of regulation. So we really want kids to identify feelings. It's okay to be mad. It's let's identify that I'm mad. So now I'm mad. Now what do I do? I'm sad. How can I get help? You know, things like that. And then finally, all of our staff this year is getting trained in restorative practices, and we are currently using the restorative questions when students do have a conflict. You know, instead of them feeling like they're in trouble, because very often they're like, oh no, I'm in trouble. It's restorative, right? We're asking them, how do we make it right? How do you think your friend felt in that moment? How did you feel in that moment? And getting to the root of things, and that request for the additional paras, that's a part of that restorative piece, right? If we're going to believe in early intervention, we need that extra help to have someone have a conversation instead of just, consequences and moving on. It's more about rebuilding the relationship. So that's a little bit of what's happening at primary, and we continue to work on these goals throughout the year.
Good evening. What was really interesting about us putting together this presentation is how one school builds upon the next. And I really wanted to echo what Ms. Anderson said in her work with the 3, 4, 5-year-olds, because one of the cool things we do is every spring is we transition our kindergarten students we cross the street over to Gages Lake, and we lay out the red carpets for them, and we welcome our soon-to-be first grade students. And Mrs. Anderson and her staff do an amazing job setting a strong foundation for our students. And now they're first graders, and they cross the big road. Don't worry, somebody was there. Somebody was taking care of them, and we did it. We got them into elementary. So we already know at this point that they understand the ROAR expectations. We, just like the rest of our principals, our staff continue to review our cool tools. We review our ROAR expectations, and that continuously happens throughout the entire year. If we have, we're noticing uptick, Dr. Machek was mentioning looking at the data, if we're noticing an uptick in our data that shows us hallway behavior or recess behavior, we'll take that opportunity for that month and focus in on those areas. But now what are we doing with those students that are continuously aligned with our Tier 1 expectations, are following our ROAR expectations? That's where the fun begins. And over at the elementary school, we have our ROAR Student of the Month. ROAR Student of the Month, those are selected. It's a catchy name. It happens each month. So this year we've already celebrated September and October, and our teachers choose different students every month. And the cool thing about it is that we begin, it's a student who maybe comes over and knows their ROAR expectations, but one of the best parts of our ROAR Student of the Month is to see that student who's made leaps and gains, just been able to present themselves and show that they're following their ROAR expectations and it continuously improving. And I absolutely love when we've got a student who early in the year might have had some trouble, but towards the end of the year, they're one of our ROAR Student of the Months. And our teachers do an amazing job making sure that they're following those ROAR expectations, but they're also leaders in the classroom as well. So they get announced on our morning announcements, and that is a huge deal. Administration, we go and visit each one of the classrooms to present a certificate. But one of the things I'm really excited about this year is bringing back our ROAR assemblies. And we actually have one next Friday. So November 4th, we'll be doing a first grade, a second grade, and a third grade. This is new this year just because we're doing it grade level. But we parade in our ROAR Student of the Month. And you let me tell you, when you see a ROAR Student Parade, and I know some of you have seen it, and I'm puffy chests are out, and yeah, you know it, I'm the ROAR Student of the Month, and they just feel good about what they've done. And we've even got this year where we've got an elementary chant, and we have a special ROAR Student of the Month elementary chant for our ROAR students. So really just all about celebrating them and making sure we are acknowledging them following our ROAR expectations. The other one is our Hallway ROAR Awards, which I brought one with, which clearly it's a half sheet of paper. Hopefully no students are watching. There's nothing special about this paper, but this thing, I guarantee you, if a student had $1 million and you said you were going to give them 20 of these, they would probably give you the $1 million for 20 of these. They are a huge deal. When we're walking in the hallway and we see a class lined up and they have safe hands, they have safe feet, their eyes are forward, they're following their ROAR expectations. It's not uncommon for a staff member, any staff member, could be an administrator, could be one of our secretaries, could be one of our office, could be anybody in the school, can give these classes these ROAR awards. So the classes earn these as they're walking throughout the hallway, in their specials. Teachers keep track of them consistently. You can see if we have them 25, 50, 75, and 100. Those are announced on our announcements, on our morning announcements. And you better believe if we forget their class, they let us know because they are watching it, they are proud of it, and they are extremely excited to have that class go, yes, Mr. Wahlberg's class, we did it well, and we're showing it off. And they're very proud of it, and it is so contagious as well. And our teachers, they'll have stuffy day, so they get to bring in stuffed animals, bring your favorite book, wear your pajamas day. That one's always my favorite. But they do all sorts of game days. They do all sorts of things to make sure they're honoring their class. They are celebrated at our quarterly assemblies as well. So on the 4th, again, and it's open, so if anyone wants to join us, it's amazing to see. We'll have those students stand up, those classes stand up when they've hit those markers. And then each quarter, we go back to 0, and we start it up again. So each quarter, it starts anew. We make sure that, you know what, if we had a rough quarter, that's okay. Just like Ms. Anderson said, we are a restorative school. We're focusing on, we've all got the questions here, but we are not focusing on the student. There is no bad student. There is no bad kid. There are certainly actions. There are mistakes that happen. That's why pencils have erasers. But that's why the purpose of us resetting, as well as the ROAR Student of the Month. Everybody always has that opportunity just to show off what they've done at a Tier 1 level, and every one of our students are able to access that, and they do a fantastic job, each and every one of them, in following those ROAR expectations. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Sheldon over at Intermediate.
Evening, Tim Sheldon at Intermediate, and it's always a tough act to follow, Ryan, but I'll do my best. But we build on, obviously, the wonderful foundation that is laid by our partners in primary and elementary school. We do a lot of the same incentives and celebrations. Our currency, or I thought I had one in my back pocket, I'm going to pull it out. We have our Roar Cash, and it's very successful. The kids we have a Roarzon store, and we try to get students involved. There are student helpers who even help the delivery process, and it's a big deal because they're selected based on their behavior, their choices as well. We have similar quarterly challenges and classroom incentives. I think the thing that I want to emphasize that hasn't already been talked about is the importance of the day-to-day interactions that we have with our children in the schools, right? When we talk about behavior, it's really important to have these positive incentives that kids are working for, but as Ryan mentioned, all of behavior is essentially a choice in the moment, right, in terms of what I'm going to do. And that's true for the students as well as the teachers. And so this year at Intermediate, we've really focused on PBIS in the classroom, and even getting down to the micro level of how we react and support the environment in our classroom. So there's a very different feel if I say, Ryan, be quiet, as opposed to as I'm teaching and I hear Ryan and I say, I really like how Stacy is giving me her eyes right now. She's showing me that she's ready to learn. That's awesome. Thank you, Stacy. Here's a ROAR ticket. I didn't even realize the irony of what I just did there. But I'm sure I'll hear about it for many years to come. But that speaks, those interactions are very powerful for kids, resonate with them that day, the next day, so forth and so on. And so we really are working conscientiously to build the capacity not only of our students but our staff to have successful interactions with our students every day in each classroom, and even when there is a tough day, because there are many, to help everybody come back the next day with that fresh start, that reset. It's not easy. Everybody is human, right? Our teachers put up with a lot of unfortunate choices that our students make because they are 9 and 10 and don't understand sometimes even what they're saying, what it actually means. And so my hat's off to them and all of the perseverance that they show in the face of adversity relative to that. And we've had some really powerful successes. I had the privilege to start my year reading an email from a parent whose student had a lot of challenging behaviors, made a lot of poor choices, and you wouldn't think this was going to be the parent that was going to be reaching out, but instead she sung the praises of everyone who worked with her child because they made him feel at home. They made him feel successful. They made him feel worthwhile, and he went so far as to record an awesome rap song, which was actually really, really good. It was very impressive, and we got to see that side of that young man because of the connections that were made between the adults and the kids. And so at 9 and 10, 11, when they are at intermediate, we really try to focus on building and sustaining that positive culture and climate between the adults and the kids, because they really are. They're ready to be in high school, but they're also still little kids too. So thank you for your time.
Did that say we're in a limo ride?
Yeah, so, and I'm going to have to get a bigger one this year because it was so successful last year. So this is actually, I wish I could claim that this was like my awesome idea. This is done in many different schools in different places, but we have such big schools. We have 1,000 students, and so we have a lot of, 90+% of the kids are always doing the right thing. That's great. So how do you choose, right? And so we will raffle off big prizes and try to make sure that they have opportunities to win really cool experiences. Too, we were fortunate there was a local vendor for a very small amount of money was willing to pick up 6 kids in big, long stretch limo. And, grandma and grandpa are out there in the driveway and taking pictures, and the kids are all excited and so grateful. And for many of our students, they have never seen a stretch limo. They have never been in a stretch limo, and, who knows if they ever will be in a stretch limo. But that is a really cool experience for them, and it is something that they talk about, every day when they see me. When are we going to do it next?
I've been behaving.
Okay, well, we will get a special, I'll get the party bus out for the Board of Education, and we will, but yes, so thank you very much for your excellent roar behavior. I appreciate it. All right.
I just want the roar cash.
Yes, absolutely. All right, here you go, Tiff.
Okay, so middle school. Well, just like the other buildings, we still have to teach our roar behavior as well. How to go to the bathroom. We still do those things. We still walk through at the beginning of the year, and we go through all those things. But before I talk about the roar celebrations, something new that we did this year, which I'm pretty excited about, is the first part is celebrating, connecting, and supporting through our advisory program. Again, you saw my kids coming in today talking about positive school culture. That was a thing for us this year. Thinking about last year was tough. So we came in this year, how do we change that? I talked about we belong and what do we need to do and making our kids feel like they belong in the building, so hopefully that we would have less discipline because they are feeling connected on their teams. That was a big thing. So we changed our advisory program, and obviously we've been talking about our advisory program within our day, and we wanted to structure that a little bit differently. And so obviously we still have the structure of that they're still getting academic support. We have a time on Mondays and Wednesdays they have their academic support, but then on Tuesdays we still have the time for SEL. We still have our lessons, our second step, we're still doing that. But on Thursdays, we've switched it up a little bit. And what we're doing is we are taking 20 students off of the team, and we are doing what we wanted to do. We are making connections. We are actually able to utilize our extra people in the building, and they are taking those students who have had great behavior, and they've done all of their work, and they are connecting with those students, and they are just doing great. They have a walking club. They're doing walking clubs. The band teachers are taking those students, and they did, bucket drumming. something different that those kids, or actually doing band, different things that some kids would never do. And so the art teachers are doing different things with them. So actually connect time with those kids. And so, but those kids have earned that time to be there. We're switching it up. And that's called connect time. And so we are pretty excited about that because the kids really love to do it. They're doing team building. They're actually doing science experiments, something different. And so obviously the kids, and they're switching up. They're actually ready to, like, hey, we want to switch it up. We want to go to that connect time. They're really wanting to be a participant in that. And then on Fridays, we're actually having the teachers, like that's a time that for the entire team, we need to have team celebrations. We need to do some team building, some community building. And we also need to use that time for time management and kind of do some different skill building to really focus and help with the kids on that time. So we focused our advisory program so that we can do a lot of celebration and so that the kids have that connecting and to feel like that they belong. And obviously, we then continue with our Roar celebrations. We're doing, all of the Roar stuff. We still have to, at the beginning of the year, we still are having our grade level assemblies. The beginning of the year, we did something different this year. We had a great kickoff where we had all of our staff, because again, that's our We Belong. That was one of our big things of We Belong. We introduced our kids to all of our staff. And I obviously did a rah-rah for all the kids so that they could know who I was and did all of our expectations, but to welcome them and make sure that they felt like they belonged in the building, and that was a big thing for us. We have our student, just like our other buildings, we have our student of the months in our content area. That's a little bit different, but in our content areas, those students are celebrated who are doing really well in math, who are doing really, really well in social studies, and they're celebrated on the team. We have the quarterly rewards for a building. We have weekly rewards. We do our building rewards. Teams are doing their rewards, but we're also doing building rewards. We also do our spirit days, or on Fridays, we have our theme building days. Tomorrow, I'm going to wear my jersey tomorrow. We're trying to make, again, that's that connectedness for our teams. And so we're just trying to build that school culture. Again, that's that we belong. And so coming up, we'll have our assemblies just like we did in the past. And it's pretty cool. We had, this week we actually had our first assembly prior to COVID. I mean, we had COVID, so this was our first assembly, having all the kids in the gym, which was pretty cool. We had our a big assembly for Red Ribbon, and so that was pretty cool. And just to see the kids all together was kind of cool. It was kind of scary, but since they hadn't been all together, but we actually had to go over more expectations and all of that stuff again. So, but we will have our assembly for recognizing all of our sports and our honor roll and all of those things. So that's what's happening at the middle school.
I just want to say, so in summary, I think one of the things that we wanted to get across is how we're really looking at the students at the primary level and moving through each one of our schools, how you could see the commonalities, so our students actually have that understanding. They understand, what the Roar expectations are, but building upon it, through each one of our schools till they get to middle school, and then we send them over to Warren, and I know, just being a previous middle school teacher as well, so knowing that our students, once they get over to Warren, do exceptionally well just because of the strong foundation I think we all lay as it pertains to Tier 1 in the classroom and focusing on the social emotional supports of each and every one of our students. And it couldn't be done without the amazing support of all of our staff in each one of our buildings who do an amazing job each and every day with our students. So this certainly could not be done without them. So thank you to them for all of their hard work and effort. So thank you all as well.
Where do you get that from?
I just got it because I did a good job from Mr. Sheldon.
I was making up for the fact that I yelled at him.
Okay.
Thank you, sweetie.
Oh, thank you.
So that bribery? No.
One step closer to the limelight.
One step closer. I just need 100 more.
I think it's more than 100, but yeah.
All right, next up we have the written report on presentation on findings from the annual district audit. Chris Bobek, Associate Superintendent, and Chris Scallett, the accounting firm Evans, Marshall, and Pease will share the findings and answer any questions the board may have regarding the annual district audit.
Good evening, Board of Education. As I introduced, my name is Chris Scallett. I am a CPA partner of Evans, Marshall, and Pease. Typically, I like to begin my audit presentation with ISBE's financial profile score. So basically, that recognizes a signal of strength across all districts within the state of Illinois. So this year, the district received recognition, which I believe has been continuous for multiple years. I know for sure it was the prior year. We scored a perfect score out of 3 out of the 4 rankings. The only one that we had a little bit of lower score was our debt ratio, just because of our 2 most recent rounds of borrowing. A few new items this year. Unfortunately, in my profession, GASB is always changing things, which makes things difficult. But they did change the overall audit opinion this year, which is located on page number 1. So before the audit opinion was kind of buried into the back of the audit report, this year they made it the first paragraph. So basically just states that the financial statements were materially correct, which is kind of the outcome of an audit. So I did not have any findings. Internal controls were sound. My firm does about 30 school districts. I do about 17 of them. And I'm being honest when I say this, that Woodland is one on the top. Things are done timely. Things are done correctly. Chris and his staff, they care. You would think that with the set standards within our state, the set chart of accounts, there'd be consistency within the state, but there isn't. So. I do want to applaud Chris and his staff, for their continuous effort to change for the positive, and then, always be willing to accept my recommendations as I see them, especially with the evolving structure of GASB continuing to change. One other thing that changed this year was the implementation of a new audit standard called leases. It didn't have an overall effect on our fund balances. However, GASB's intent was to take away, we used to have 2 categories, capital and operating. We now have 1, we have leases. And the issue with leases in the past was if you had an operating lease, it was technically off the book financing. And it kind of trickled down to school districts with copiers. But the big issue was in these bigger villages, if they were leasing a building and they were going to go do a bond issuance, that huge lease amount, say it was $1 million a year, wasn't included in debt. So they were getting higher amounts they could borrow, but they also had these buried operating costs. So that's kind of in detail within the notes of the financial statements. I believe that's on page 31. Another key factor or key point this year was fund balances increased kind of across the board, with the exception of the working cash fund. We did a transfer into the capital projects fund for some projects. And that really has nothing to do with the district itself. The state and the federal government, we really had an influx of monies this year statewide. Between all the CARES, it's basically COVID monies, ESSER monies, and ARP monies. District received about $3 million this year. I'll be be honest, I've never seen in my career, I've been doing this almost 15 years, the influx of money that's been pumped into school districts. So we still got to remain fiscally responsible. Just because we have these higher fund balances, these are one pump shots, right? So they're going to go away, it's just kind of gotten to the point where it's been a little bit out of control with how much money they've been pumping into the schools. Schools have no say over this. You're gonna give them money if they're gonna give it to you. But on one positive note, there were multiple grants outside of these CARES grants that you could actually apply for. So Woodland School District 50 did actually receive close to about $1 million in FEMA money. And the FEMA money, there's only 2 school districts out of the 30 that actually applied for these monies. I think if they didn't know about it, they didn't care enough to do it. And I guess that's where I'm going back to my point in the beginning is Woodland always cares. Chris cares. Fran cares. And, that's something that, to me, shouldn't go unnoticed because I do see differences here in a positive way that I don't see at other places. And when I do recommend items, I always use Woodland as an example of this is how things should go. When people ask me for reports, I show them Woodland. I'm in a school district right now showing them Woodland stuff. And there's a lot of truth behind that because things are correct. We have good staff here that they care. The payroll clerk cares. They know what they're doing. And they actually sit down and they talk to me. I got to know, I'm going off subject here, I won't be long, but I got to know Ryan at his previous school district. I was hoping he kept his little certificate up here so I could sell it on the market. But, the people here care, and they want to talk to me. I think sometimes as an auditor, I scare people away. It's like I kind of get, their fake face. And it's good to come to a place that actually you can get to know people, right? And obviously for me, I have to be objective and be skeptical, but it doesn't mean that, I'm not a person just like anybody else. So I applaud the business department for that. Our operating cost per pupil this year kind of went up a little bit, and that's kind of in detail on, it is in detail on page 95. But again, that number is a little misleading as well, is because we do have a charter school. So, those numbers fluctuate, and that can kind of fluctuate the operating cost per pupil. But again, this year, most operating cost per pupil numbers have been going up. Higher expenses, they do contribute, but the large factor is that there's a lower ADA number, which would be your average daily attendance. I think for the most part I covered everything I wanted to cover. Chris, if there's anything that I missed, feel free to interrupt me, but again, I don't want to bore you with all this information. I know this is my thing, but I know a lot of people like your CPA and you're so boring and miserable. Actually, I love doing this. So, with that being said, I'll open up the floor to any questions and do the best I can to answer them.
Board members, any questions?
Thank you for mentioning my staff. They make me look good. They really do.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. That's really, really good to hear that you and your team are doing such a great job and this is working out so well. So good. Thank you. Okay. All right, next up we have the written report and presentation on district sustainability.
Good evening. Arguably it's been a year already since we had this chat. So, quick agenda topics. It's kind of recapping what we did last year and kind of showing where we're at. Strategic plan, that's been a hot topic tonight. We like to try to show our work and where we link to our current strategic plan, and it's goal number 6. The focus on sustainability and facilities as they're updated, and all this work that you're going to see directly links to that goal. So this was presented last year, recommendations for the first year. You can see bulleted ones that are you know, the highlighted ones and the ones that aren't. Those are the ones that are done or going to be done very, very shortly. And you'll see as we go through the next couple slides how and why not everything is highlighted. The solar boxes, for example, that's the one that interfaces us to these solar systems and will allow the schools to see direct function of what those are. We'll be able to put it on our website. We'll be able to see that. Those units were just delivered to our company with those, and we expect to get those hopefully in the next 6 weeks. And the combat facility assessment was done. The PJM and the VLR, those are rebate programs that we're involved with the utility companies, and those are for if we participate with the load reduction need on the grid, we get some funds for that. And then the bottom one, purchasing practices. Well, this may not sound like a big thing on the surface. This is the kind of stuff when we talk about the middle school roof, it kind of plays into this a little bit without necessarily the data. Like we had to do a large concrete job down at elementary. Had to replace 114 squares. That's essentially a sidewalk chunks. That's a lot of concrete. And this way we did this particular job, we were able to mud jacket for various reasons, but it allowed us to do that job. Now, if you think about it, it's like, why? How's that a big deal? Well, by mud jacking that particular amount of concrete, that's basically one truck with one guy with a piece of equipment. If you're going to replace that concrete, that's a couple dump trucks coming in with roll-offs, a couple, 4 or 5, 6 person crew coming in to do their work with their equipment. You got skid steers, you got other equipment that come and do that work. Trucks coming to deliver materials, and you got cement trucks coming in to pour that concrete. So that's how you can easily build up a large, CO2 count from what would be a seemingly simple project. And so the more ways that we can do this kind of work is what we're trying to do within our department, trying to help save any place that we can on how we do our business. So year 2 and 3, this one was presented. The solar project at middle school, as of this time last year, was not officially on the hook yet. We thought it was going to be out another year, but Mr. Goldberg was able to secure that, finalize that by the winter break. Even that late, we were able to still get that project in, material here, and that up on the roof. And it has been running approximately 3 weeks-ish. But that system's been turned on and producing power for us. So that's a big thing. As you guys are obviously we do right now, we're reporting out last year's work. And then year 3, we were able to pull that project forward a little bit. I say a little because we couldn't do the whole project, but what it's afforded us, we were able to get a grant for that particular LED project. And what it's afforded us is to do a pilot at intermediate, 6 classrooms and 2 gyms, and some hallway along the sorting area in the cafeteria. What this will do for us is that with that being a large project, you want to live with that product at first if you can. I've had several peers, you wholesale out a large commercial building, you do all the lighting different, and you don't realize what impact that particular lighting is having between wavelengths, hues, color. It can have a big impact. So last we pilot it, test it out, the controls, we'll be able to have a little better product if we can move this project forward through the next year, which I think we'll be able to. So next steps, again, pull the LED project forward. Hopefully do the board policy, some potential updates there, or on the APs for the administrative procedures to make sure sustainability is built into our work and our language, so we have some backbone to it. The morning here, this is a small one, low-hanging fruit one, but that's been a staffing problem, getting folks to have interviews. But we had some interviews yesterday, and those were good interviews, so we have some folks joining us soon. And then the ComEd retrofit, we should be able to get that work done this year as well. In year 3, report electric buses and looking at the geothermal, why the geothermal. Our buildings the 2 big buildings are going to be in that 20-25-year window, and large mechanical systems can be traded out. So there may be a value to that at that stage. So the timing may work. So middle school roof, that is a big building. I had 2 high schools in my last district, and this building is bigger than each one of those buildings were. And they have pools. So this is a large school, and why I'm kind of talking about this way is sustainability. That roof did not reach its full life expectancy. So if you think about how much equipment, people hours, material had to go up to get that off, put that back on, that is a big expense. And schools are some of the community's largest assets and some of the largest expenses. So The more we can do on our end to improve our maintenance, improve how these are being put on, how we work with this equipment, or the buildings, the better it is for the community. Well, we had a lemon, so we made some lemonade out of that. We were able to put solar on it. Well, getting a new roof on there, it afforded us this opportunity. So that really will benefit the district, over the next 15, 20 years. This is the view of the north side. The reason I'm sharing this with you is because there's a small section down here that was done this summer, as well as the south educational wing and then this front. We'll look at a view of that in a second. You can see the rails being put on for the solar up on these two parts. This is the view of the front of the school with the roof on it. It still has the safety cones and stuff up there that wasn't fully buttoned up. So again, the south education wing and the west facade is what was done this year as part of phase 2. This whole back section was phase 1. This is phase 2. You'll be hearing about this from Mr. Bodak. This is going to be phase 3, this light section in the middle. You'll be hearing about that coming up over the next few months here. And again, a sustainability topic. This particular mid-colored wing here, this one is going to be a section that we believe we can get closer to the maximum life out of that if we do a little better maintenance between now and then. It was installed much differently. It was a different phase, a different generation. But we improved our maintenance. We got some material that was on there, off there, so we helped reduce the rust potential that we were getting on the other sections. So we should be able to improve how that section of roof lasts. So phase 4 should hopefully be able to be down the road. And then we got a little video here. They modified it for us, Laura. Okay, so we're just starting up. So this is just a quick aerial view of the building, just to show the solar and the new sections of roof. That was a very large project. That's a very large.
They charge you for that?
This is about what happened. So you can see little end caps around this. They went on the picture. Our safety cones are off the road, so you can see a nice pretty picture of your roof. Again, that light section in the middle will be your phase 3 that we'll be talking about over the next few months. That's basically it. So, any questions?
Super exciting.
Board members, question?
I think we're making good moves, and I like that we're looking out for our community, looking out for our kids. I don't know. I think it's cool. It's something which other districts I hope are looking at. I mean, have you had conversations with other districts? Other districts have asked questions about the process we went through, or?
Not so much about the process, just where they're at within the community. The Woodlands, in my experience, in my districts that I've been around and that I see, has done a good job of staying current, if you will, with their assets.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like going above and beyond staying current. You're trying to be a little more progressive with what you're doing with the balance. So, these are big assets for this community, and everything we can do to try to sustain them, be sustainable with them to help them last their full life expectancy. So it's huge. It's big money for the district.
Other thoughts?
Very impressive. It's cool to see the roof done because you see the work going on. And thanks for showing us that. It's really interesting to see what we paid for.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's good for the community to see.
But all positive things, and I think that our kids can learn so much from all of these things because, it's something that we didn't grow up with when we were kids. As much learning to care about the environment and just in every decision that you make and every, purchase that you make to think about ways to do it responsibly and ways that, are forward thinking. And I really like it. So thank you.
I have to give our team a lot of credit. I mean, to replace a roof, that's already a big job. But then to replace a roof and also cover a lot of it with solar panels and deal with ComEd and the state and the bureaucracy of that made a big job a huge job. And the fact that we can do that we can continue to take a look at capital projects and find ways to be fiscally responsible and sustainable, right? And help our taxpayers, but also generate clean energy for our schools. I mean, it's just a really good way to do things. But it definitely requires focus and keeping our eye on the ball and keeping moving forward. It's pretty easy as board members to want those things. It's harder for people to do it. And so thank you for all of your hard work and to the team. up is the discussion on district website improvements. Dr. Maychek and Communications Manager Brooke Hegstrom have shared a memo included in the board packet regarding the initial analysis of the findings from the survey sent to parents on their engagement navigation information provided in appearance of the current website. The administration will provide additional information with the board and discuss next steps. So, Dr. Maychek, do you have anything you want to say about this? We have a written report in the packet.
Right, so, and this is sort of a follow-up from last month, and also I know the idea of our website came up with the strategic plan facilitators as well on the 13th, and I really appreciate Brooke adding some questions to the survey that went out to parents about the website. So you can see from the survey, we know that we need a lot of work on our website, and but if that's part of a larger communication piece as the strategic plan, I mean, we were looking at not doing any wholesale changes right now. We're adding things to try to clean it up. One example of a need that Lene and Brooke and Diana Gilliland have been addressing is the safety portal that's now on our website, which I think is a huge, it was a great resource for our community. But we didn't want to wait until like an overhaul of the website to put that up because the information is too important not to share. And we want to make sure that the information is accurate. There's the accuracy of it, then there's an aesthetic piece. We want, and I know we talked about, the board had talked about involving tech in making some recommendations. I think an important voice in making the changes to our website is our parent community because they use it. And getting stuff on the website is one thing, but how easy is it for a parent to find what he or she is looking for is something else. And I know there are. I've gone to workshops through INSPRA where there's a coordinated effort between what's on the website and what's on Twitter and what's on Facebook, and one drives the other, and it's sort of a symbiotic relationship. And so I mean, that's certainly something we can look at. The Brooke knows way more about the different companies out there that help districts like ours build websites. And some of them have the two biggest ones have actually merged now.
I was going to jump in on that one too. Yeah.
So, but I think it would be good to get feedback from our constituents and our focus groups as we move forward towards the strategic plan. I think one thing is clear that we all know we want to work on it. So I think for Brooke and for me and for our team, it would be good feedback if there's anything pressing that the board wants to see added, changed, now before we kind of pull the thing down to its studs and start all over again.
Brooke, do you have anything you want to add?
No, but I can answer any questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
I mean, one thing I just want to add real quick though is you brought up this so we host our Blackboard's our website. That's the website builder that most districts use. They got bought out by Final Site, which is like the number 1, number 2. So no one's really sure what's going to do long term. So a lot of school sites might have to do revamp over the next few months, next year. So we'll be along with the ride of many people.
Well, right, and what are the implications for our contract?
Right.
Right, and all that. So yes, we're just trying to figure that out.
One change that I had really wanted to see, I went to the website tonight for something, and it was there, staring me in the face. There's a pop-up saying, there's a board meeting tonight, here's how you can watch it, because that's something that, as a parent, I had struggled with, where do I watch the board meeting, and it was kind of hard to find, and that was something that came through in the survey results as well. Things are there, they're just maybe hard to find. So I really like the new pop-up, that's really exciting. But yeah, I can't think of anything other than that. That would have been my one request.
Sure. Well, and kudos to Dr. Walls and Brooke Hegstrom. The idea of there's information about student safety in 10 different spots. It's under the health office, and it's in the handbook, and it's under each of the schools, and it's but to kind of take a step back and think about where does this piece make the most sense, and that's kind of the approach that we're taking. And I think anything that we do new, in my previous district when we redid our website, the biggest thing from our strategic plan is that parents want to see their kids, and so we loaded up our website with pictures of kids doing things in classes. And again, you know, the narrative drove parents to our district Facebook page to see more about this event or whatever. And I think there's a really great opportunity to improve our overall communications by realigning, or maybe for the first time aligning our website with some of the other pieces. I mean, I think where we're at now, when school started first having websites, like there's your one-stop shop for you know, finding what you need. But like now, the way everybody's so busy and things are on their phone and things are on their watch, you know, parents want information pushed out to them, which was the idea of creating the ability to receive text messages, so that we could send you a link to this document, or to you open up this page on your phone, and then all of a sudden it pops up your browser pops up based on what the link was. So we're just trying to figure out how to not only make the navigation experience easier, but also make sure that we've got information that people are looking, you know, and like you said, that people are looking for and want to find. So.
Other thoughts? All right, what are next steps?
Brooke, what are next steps?
What are next steps? What do we do next?
I personally think the whole Blackboard final site thing is kind of our next hurdle to understand what new tools will be available to us with the new vendor. What does our current contract include, and how will that change? We haven't looked at, or the website hasn't been revamped since I've been here, so usually you do that every couple of years. So it's definitely time. And before, I understand the last time they brought a committee of people together to kind of make decisions about the website, because not everybody navigates the website the same way. And so I imagine we'll probably revisit that kind of strategy again. So that's just kind of where we're headed, I think.
Would it make sense to do that at the same time as the strategic plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Subcommittee.
Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
That works? Okay, yeah, let's do that then.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next up, we've been going for a while. Does anybody need to stand up?
Nope, keep going. Keep going.
Just keep moving? Okay. The wiggles out? Anyway? Nope, okay, all right. Next is the written report on district-wide LED lighting. Chris Bobach provided a written report on the switch over from traditional to LED lighting as one of the district's long-term sustainability projects. Chris is available for any questions. Any questions? It is. I think it's really important that we keep moving in this direction. So,
Right.
do you have anything you want to?
Would you like me to say something, or would you like to?
Yeah, I mean, just it really matters. I know that we just talked about getting windows out, but
Sure.
yeah, LED's big.
Yeah, we were so close about a year and a half ago to approving a project, and then we found out what the costs were, and the people providing us the costs, and we said, no, wait a second, let's just slow down, because the number was, in my mind, inflated substantially. So we pulled back on that project. We've been trying to figure out a different way to do it, because it is a large project, but we do believe we can do it in-house, and we believe we can do it for a much more cost-effective. When I say in-house, I don't mean us physically doing it. I mean us going out to bid and not having this under a performance contract. So, yeah, what we're looking to do is we're looking to get the approval to go ahead, and then it might take us a little while to get the bid put together, but as long as we have the go-ahead, then as soon as we can get that bid together, we can go ahead and put it out to the public, and then we can come back and ask for approval for the lighting project.
Do we need to make that an action item next month?
Next month. It'll be on next month.
Great. Next up is written report. I'm sorry. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Next up is the written report on revised AV sound replacement in the Oak Room, which is here. So Dan Geisey, Director of Technology, provided a report on the system at the August governing meeting. Additional options were suggested and researched by the Technology Department. Included in your documents is a revised report, including the suggested options for your review. And Dan is here to answer any questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Nope.
Dr. Machek, anything to say about this one?
I just appreciated everybody's feedback after the initial report, and the idea of to do what we need to do, but possibly do it in a more efficient and cost-effective manner was a really good idea, and I appreciate Dan taking that feedback and coming back with the report that's in your packet.
Okay. Anything, board members?
So I just had a question. My understanding from the new information is that for YouTube Live that it wouldn't support the ADA requirements, but it says we'll bring them over with purchase of new mixer to support them, and then also the board recording device. So I just had a question about the recording device, like, because I know that was something that we needed to be sure would work.
Correct. So we currently have those in the presentation I gave last month. We were bringing those items over
Okay.
in those solutions as well.
Okay.
So that's just making a note that the same items that we're using today will come over in the new proposed based on the feedback we got from the board.
I see.
So,
Okay.
Yep, so we're not replacing those items, we're just bringing those over.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions, other thoughts? Okay.
I mean, do we need to take, is there an action item on this eventually, or?
Next month, hopefully,
Oh.
unless you want to, I think, so, when Dan originally presented in August, the idea was that it would be an action item in September, but then when there were questions or maybe other, did you think about, this? So then I met with Dan and with Chris. Dan revised the recommendation based on that feedback, and then hopefully, if there aren't any questions or concerns, we'll bring it back as for an action item next month.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anything else? All right. Written report and job description for instructional technical coordinator. We got a job description and written information for the rationale to add. The instructional technology coordinator, Dr. Major, can you please provide the board with any additional information?
Sure. Well, so I certainly can try to answer questions, but what a really good example of, I think, why we need such a position is going on right now at primary, where we have a state assessment called KIDS, and there are a number of students that Stacy is realizing we're not populating, and in terms of like getting support for the issue, there's a number of, the more technology we use and the more apps and programs that we need in terms of accessing data and putting it where we need it, the more there's responsibilities that don't currently fall to any one person. And so, there's a tech question or something doesn't work on an app, or I can't get student data loaded into EduClimber, or my kids' data isn't showing up. Well, it's not really a technology issue for like Dan's team, because the Wi-Fi is working and the connection's working and everything's powered up and you're getting a Wi-Fi signal. That's not that team, and it's not Paul Fegley. It's not our system informations team, because on our end, all the information that we're supposed to upload is uploaded. But so when the problem is somewhere else, like now it's at ISB, and the person left to deal with it has been Stacy, and trying to work with them, and they all day I was copied on emails where try this, okay, that I'll try this, and so they're acknowledging that the problem is on their end, but it would be good to have someone who could work with, if it's a third party or if it's a software company that there's a problem with getting. We have our information, it's not showing up the way we need it. Now, certainly Dan and his team and Paul and his team have always been willing to help, but they have their own responsibilities. We have tech integration folks. Their responsibility is to make sure that the teachers can use the technology to enhance teaching and learning, in their building. So again, there's sort of this, I know in my report I said a gray area or no man's land where things happen. We've got EduClimber, and we can't get somehow the attendance information isn't showing up. Well, Paul loaded it up, and we've got the Wi-Fi, and it's like, well, who's supposed to help with that? And it's nobody's job right now to do that. And so what I'd like to do for the remainder of the year is see if we could find someone for the second part of the year to try the core, like the prioritized responsibilities of this position, and then get feedback not only from Dan and Paul, who have been splitting these responsibilities and their teams, but also from the schools, to see if adding a position like this is improving this situation. Right now, at this point, it would be a pilot, and I would come back at the end of the year, whether in June or July, with feedback as to whether to request that we make this a full-time position, which is why we have a full-time job description in your packet, or if we say, you know what, this isn't doing what we were hoping it would do, and we need to go in a different direction. So next month, what I'm hoping that the board would approve is a 0.2 FTE, so a pilot, so that we can try it and see if it makes a difference.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I just am really hopeful that this would be something that be a position that would be able to help us use technology more consistently, because I think that's something, like, as a parent in the district, that sometimes has felt lacking, but it's all kind of part of this process of, like, everything becoming technology based, and it's a process, but sometimes there are gaps, and I think anything we can do to help fill those gaps. I mean, we have Skyward and Schoology and all the other, things that schools use, and sometimes those have duplicated, like, reporting functions, and it makes, like, I'm sure there's somebody somewhere who understands, like, well, it was more cost effective to report this information this way, but it can be very confusing for parents, and I think that it's good, anything that we do that helps us streamline, the way that we use technology or to optimize it I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I am too, and thank you for that feedback. I think to your point, this position would fall under the curriculum office, not the technology department, because this is something, and you use the word enhance, and use technology more consistently. And the only thing I would add to your feedback is to the ability to help teachers use technology more consistently to help them teach, like, the standards and the goals for the kids. Lots of times we're trying, are we going to pilot this program, or yeah, I've got this, but I don't see where this fits in, or I'm not understanding how using this program could help me reach these curricular goals. There would be that part of a component, and we did look at, and again, thank you to Mr. Geisy for sharing some job descriptions from other districts where he was familiar that they had this position. But when we investigated it, there was a really there was as much professional development on the curriculum side as there was, like, the troubleshooting why the kids' names are not populating in the program. So it really is a support to the teaching and learning that teachers are trying to do. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Point to it enough. I mean, it's a big job teaching teachers now. Is that enough?
Right.
No.
Well, as a pilot, I thought it would be sufficient to see if we warranted expanding it, but if we were going to expand it, it would be a full-time job.
Yeah. I have a few questions. So how is this different, or how does this interact with the technology, integration specialist, or does that role not exist?
Well, again, my understanding of the role of the technology integration folks is that they are supporting the actual use of how to use the devices in the classroom. This is more how to make sure that if I'm trying to use that particular software, it has nothing to do with the device I'm showing it on, but how do I use this math program to help these kids?
Okay.
Or how can I look at
from a teacher lens, then?
Pardon me?
From a teaching and learning lens.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So they're coming at it from the curriculum lens as opposed to, okay, you just got a new Promethean board or whatever. Here's how you use it, and I think that would be a big difference.
Okay. My only question is so I'm looking at the qualifications, and this is my role. Like, this is my job right now. Like, I'm a teacher. When is this role? But we're asking of them that they come from a technology world rather than a teaching world. I mean, what do we want to see it more of them as teachers first and then technology secondary? Because it's the integration side of things, but maybe I'm wrong on that side of things. I'm just looking at, right now, we're asking for bachelor's degree and master degree in information technology, computer science. That's coming from a very technical standpoint, not from the teaching and learning standpoint.
Well, part of it for me was looking at, again, what the qualifications were in other districts that had the role. but we can certainly,
Yeah,
I mean,
I think-
appreciate the feedback.
Yeah.
so.
I think when I see these roles, I usually see them overseeing another group of teachers who were teachers helping in the classroom.
Okay.
That's usually what you see, I think, I see more often.
And conceptually, that's kind of what I
Yeah.
want, yeah. So, but thank you
Um,
for that feedback.
yeah.
We can make that change and bring it back.
Any other questions? Okay. So, the next item is actually on the script. It's in a different place. in
Yeah, I
the
see you,
board book,
yeah.
So hopefully everybody's okay with going to written information on revised board policies. Policy Committee met on October 18th, 2022 to review and discuss updates to board policies. The revised policies are included in your packets. Does anyone have any questions on the reviews? Hearing none. The next item, receipt of any Freedom of Information FOIA requests. The district was in receipt of one FOIA request for the month of October. Chris, can you provide information?
One FOIA request came in on September 15th by a Heather Rand, due on the 21st. We had to ask for an extension. Response then due on the 28th, and we filled it on the 28th. The request was for public records, including any of the following, and it's any email sent from Don Miller, or I'm sorry, Don Martin, or to Don Martin that include the quotes or quote Woodland School District 50 for in-person schooling, unquote, or any board member or administrator email address between January 15th, 2021 and September 13th, 2022. Second part of the request was any and all communications, not limited to emails, text messages, voicemails, or board meeting notes, and a few other things that relate to Heather Rand between the dates of January 15th, 2021 and September 13th, 2022.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have board improvement and operations. Board will discuss various ways to improve efficiency of meetings. Do any board, item A, announcements, committee reports. Do any board members have any announcements from any committees that they'd like to share? Anybody?
No, Brianna and I, neither one of us was able to attend the PTA, the most recent PTA meeting, so we do not have a report for that one.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. B, board improvement, status requests, and future board items. So the discussion of board professional development at the joint annual conference. There are several opportunities for professional development at the joint annual conference. Would anyone like to share which sessions they will be attending, or do we need to maybe go and then talk about it?
We'll do that one. I didn't know it was just look at this.
I don't know, I can talk about all the things that I have marked that I want to
I've
attend, and
looked
I
at
can
the
only choose
sessions.
one.
I looked forward to them.
Well, I mean, I was kind of looking forward to this discussion because, you know, we could kind of plan out.
Plan our days.
Yeah, we'll plan out who might be covering what. Like one of the sessions is amplifying student voice with a seat at the board table. So I'm kind of interested, you know, could that be done at the middle school level? You know, Chris, I want to understand financial reports. That's one on my list. You know, there's self-evaluation and progress reporting, superintendent evaluating, priority of ends with goal setting. I mean, there's just so many, so I don't want to like double up and have all of us go to one, but you know, I'm thinking strategic planning wise, maybe we could strategically plan what we're going to attend.
Okay.
I signed up for a pre-conference workshop about re-examining the board's role in community engagement. So I think that'll be interesting,
Yeah, that sounds great.
especially with the strategic plan coming up.
Other thoughts?
I haven't even looked at it yet.
I'm in the same boat, yeah. November thing.
Okay.
So bring it back in November?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, please. It's because we're going the day before, right? Isn't there a board meeting on the 17th? And yeah, I'll come prepared that day.
Okay. All right, so next item is discussion and direction of IASB resolutions and position statements. Included in your packet, the IASB resolution and position statements at this time. Would anyone like to discuss what the district positions are on any of the resolutions or position statements. You may have a question, and I know Carla usually represents us in this regard, and she is not here right now to hear this conversation. So, does anyone have anything that they would like to discuss now? Otherwise, without emailing all of us, perhaps you can send an email to Dr. Little with any thoughts or questions that you might have. She usually has a lot more information about this.
Okay.
And Dr. Matrix, do you have anything that you?
Yeah, so at Rotary this morning, we were talking, the superintendent group that attends there, and I know there's one of the resolutions is to have stores that sell guns and firearms. There's a conversation about making sure that those are moved to, further away from schools. And I know that there had been a lot of discussion, I think in some of the other board meetings, about that particular issue, but that's the only one that I'm aware of that other folks were talking about.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. Hearing nothing. Status of correspondence. There were no correspondence to the board in the month of October. Has anyone signed up for more citizen statements? Looking like no. Do we need to return to closed session? Also no. Seeing as there's no need to return to closed session, there's no need for additional business to discuss. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Let's roll call vote.
How about we just do a group vote?
Everyone's leaving. This vote could go either way.
What's the group? Why don't we just all vote at the same time? What do we call that? Yes. I like that, like the group consensus.
Yes.
Did we do that one time? Did we do a group consensus one time?
We have.
I like that.
I think so, yeah.
Just like, yeah.